My name is Marcy Gang, and I am the account executive at Cotton Incorporated, working on home textiles. For those who are not familiar with who Cotton Incorporated is, we actually are a not-for-profit organization. So we represent America's cotton farmers and importers of cotton. So we are the research and promotion arm for the global cotton industry. So basically, we are here to help promote cotton to the industry, to show you all the amazing things that cotton can do, and develop new finishes and innovations for cotton-based fabrication. I would like to introduce our panelists that are going to be on this discussion with me. So Karen Fogel from Live Eco, Scott Kahan from Regal Fabrics, and Millie Solomon from Hoopery. So what I'd like to do, maybe we could just go through, and if everybody could just introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about your company.
Sure. So I am with Libico. Libico is a 167-year-old linen weaving company in Belgium. We're fifth-generation family owned, and we promote, of course, linen, and we blend with many other natural fibers, a lot with cotton as well. And sustainability is at the core of who we are.
I am the founder and creative director at Kufri. We are our own boutique brand of hand-woven textiles. We specialize in hand-woven textiles for residential and also hospitality, based out of Dallas. And sustainability, absolutely, and natural fibers are also at the heart of what we do.
I'm Scott with Regal Fabrics, and so we're a third-generation family-owned company. We're a textile converter, and so that means we design, we develop, and we make things in 10 countries around the world, including the US. And we do that with a focus on upholstery, probably a specialty into North Carolina upholstery manufacturers, but also some things for windows, some things for tabletop, and a little bit of everything.
Thank you. So one of the reasons that we wanted to have this panel discussion today is to really bring the conversation more around natural fibers, to share with everyone what you can do with natural fibers like cotton, like linen, because, you know, there are so many opportunities and there's so many great things that you can do with natural fibers. And I think, you know, over the years, some of that may have been lost as new innovative fibers have come in. We've kind of lost perhaps like what just natural fibers can do. And there's so many inherent benefits of using natural fibers. So that's really what we wanted to talk about today. And for the first topic, you know, everybody's talking about sustainability. It's so important to our industry. And I think there's a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding of what sustainability means. And it doesn't always have to mean organic cotton, organic fibers. Just the fact that you're using a natural fiber, there are inherent benefits to sustainability, like the biodegradability and compostability. So that's kind of what I wanted to ask you all about, was if you could share how your company is currently approaching sustainability, whether that's through sourcing, production methods, or end-of-life considerations. So I don't know if you'd like to start it.
Linen itself, the flax plant, is a very sustainable plant. It requires very little water to grow, essentially pesticide free. And so but Libico, with our 167 years behind us, still makes every initiative and effort to focus on sustainability, the least chemicalized versions of anything we can do to achieve our beautiful high quality fabrics. So if that's regarding dye, we've also supported many initiatives over the years. One, for example, is that the linen used to be retted in the Lees River in Belgium, and that would turn the river golden. And so Libico was very instrumental in helping to clean that up. We help support farmers when needed, although we aren't the growers of flax. And so that just continues. It's kind of always been who we are. A little bit like what you said, mentioned, Marcy, is that These beautiful fibers have existed for thousands and thousands of years. And sometimes they don't get the kind of marketing play that the newer fibers get, but the durability, the beauty, the natural sort of environments that they create shouldn't go unnoticed. And so I'm glad we're speaking about this today.
So for us, natural fibers and sustainability. All our entire range of fabrics, except one, is natural fibers. So everything we do is centered around natural fibers. Cotton, linen, flax, hemp, cotton, linen, jute, hemp, silk. Those are the fibers that we currently use. And for us, we work in all the artisan villages in India. So we have about 5 different units we work with. Each one specializes in their own, because textile is very regional in India. So each village specializes in either a certain type of yarn, a certain type of weaving process. But for us, sustainability is not just getting the natural fibers. We also educate a lot about the fact that it's biodegradable. We also educate designers about, it's not just the sourcing and the family farms where the yarns come from. But it's also the fact that in India, the whole the business process and the model itself has to be sustainable. For example, the entire village is sustained by what we do. The whole village is involved in textiles. So there is a household that does dyeing, there's a household that does weaving, there's a household that does the spinning or the warping. So really, the sustainability conversation for us goes beyond just the natural fibers. It's very much like the business model of what we do, because the whole village is sustained by textiles. And it's this really wonderful relationship. The more we can be innovative in our designs with the artisan weavers, the more they can continue to sustain and grow and sustain their village.
So I think uniquely, at least up here, sustainability is really not at the heart of everything we've done for 40 years. We're in a very competitive market. And so I always say our job is to chase value for our customers wherever we might find it. And so for us, 6 years ago, most of our line was at least 80% poly. A lot of it was 100% polyester. And then we made an acquisition of a company that had a lot of things that were a little bit like ours. But the thing that they did that was special, that was different from what we already did, was they had these 100% USA cotton products. Kind of looked at that and we said, how do we kind of continue on with that? I think we ended up going the wrong way. We decided, okay, let's have this brand. It'll be lifestyle casual and everything will be sustainable. So kind of doing what we do and where we thought the market was going, the first thing we did in sustainability is we put out a line of 100% recycled product. And there was a little bit of recycled cotton in some of that, but mostly it was recycled poly made out of plastic bottles. And I kind of quickly found out charging more for recycled polyester was not chasing value for our customers. It's a price-driven market, and it wasn't really what people wanted. On the other hand, the cottons were still great. And so we've really shifted that whole line, which we call Kindred. Still the same rule we always made, which is at least 51% sustainable. But we haven't made anything with recycled polyester maybe 5-6 seasons now, because it turns out that adding the value of cotton or linen really is the main two. A little bit of jute, a little bit of hemp. But that's what's really driven value to the customer, because there's more perceived value as a result of the actual inherent fibers, rather than just, not that it was greenwashing, it was, truly recycled goods, but that wasn't necessarily enough to be valuable. Whereas the true natural fibers, and I think we're doing more with cotton than anything else, really has perceived value to the customer and something that sells through all the way to the consumer. They can understand it, they can touch it, it feels different, it's a little softer, and it's something they want to put their face on in their own.
So sustainability can mean different things to different people and different companies. Everybody kind of has their own definition of what sustainability means. Can you talk a little bit about how you've approached, you know, your communicating sustainability in an authentic and transparent way? So you talked a little bit about greenwashing, which is prevalent, unfortunately, in this industry because consumers aren't always aware of everything that goes into making textiles. And there is so much incorrect information out there. Can you talk a little bit about how you communicate that to the consumer?
Yes, and I will say it's something that we've struggled with, because being a company that's been around for 167 years, there's certain assumptions or just ways that you approach things where we feel that the fiber and the fabric should speak for itself. And so it does take a little bit of a mind shift to find ways to creatively get the message out, and also not feel that we're in a way greenwashing, because, which of course linen is not, but sort of overplaying what it actually is, but it's real. So it definitely is something we speak of internally and struggle with, and we do some beautiful marketing. So the team at the mill is quite gifted with that, and we do linen training. So we offer trainings on linen because we think it's so valuable for all of our customers to know the entire process. It's a beautiful process. You fall in love with it. It's almost like growing grapes for wine when you really learn about the growing process for the flax, how we're so dependent on the sun and the rain, and we are watching the weather daily and checking in, and the plant itself is just the most beautiful story, where it blooms as a beautiful blue flower, blooms one day. So in Belgium, there is even an app that tells people what farm is blooming on a given day. So when they're cycling, they can go by and kind of absorb and experience that beauty. So all those beautiful stories are worth telling and retelling, and that's really our approach. It's not that kind of sexy, but it is just sort of, you know, continuing to share that story with anyone that will listen, and most people that do fall as much in love with it as we do.
I think for us, sustainability isn't something that we push that much to our designer, because the fact that it's a natural fabric, we feel that we don't need to keep repeating the sustainability factor. With that said, we do have a workshop, sort of like a talk that we do a few times a year, and that's sort of like our educational component. And the sustainability and how the fabrics are made, that whole process, all that stuff, we talk about in that educational session. So our marketing materials don't really push the sustainability as much. We really focus a lot on the design and the innovation and being innovative with textures, because it's a visual industry with the interior designers. So for us, really the workshop and the educational component that we do a few times a year, that's sufficient.
You want to get that?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I was saying. We don't want to push anything that feels inauthentic. And so if we've used the cotton seal on product that is 80% cotton, and we think that that's an important story, recognizable logo. But gosh, like you were just saying, I do think the natural fiber, we know that it's sustainable, and so we've kind of leaned into that. We do have certifications at all the mills that are working with Okotex and got certified dye houses and all these things, but we never really lead with those things because I think there's just all these acronyms and it becomes just too confusing for everybody. So when somebody wants it, we have that stuff ready to go. But it hasn't been necessarily how we've led. We're probably more proud to just lead with, look at this nice natural fiber product, look at this nice cotton, look at this nice.
Great. I think it's really important to, lean into what consumers are asking for, because they're seeing so many things out there that, claim to be sustainable. And so it's constantly trying to revise that message while being truthful and authentic, but also, being realistic about how it's all the processes and things that it goes through. So what I'd like to do is kind of switch gears a little bit now and talk a little bit about wellness in the home, because I think this is kind of like an underrated thing that, you know, talk about natural fibers, because we, you know, there are wellness and health benefits to using natural fibers in the home. So Karen, I don't know if you could talk a little bit about how natural fibers like linen contributes to wellness in the home, both physically and emotionally.
Yeah, well, there's some new studies out on the frequency of fibers, which is fascinating. And so the frequency of linen is 1,000, I guess it's megahertz measured, above kind of the human body frequency. So the understanding or the science behind there is stating that if you're wearing fiber, so it's the noble fibers that have a higher frequency, or a frequency at the same level of our bodies or higher than those, provide health benefits. So that's one very cool little fact that we've learned recently, and that just, you know, contributes to kind of the beauty of the story. But I think we all experience it, and it's kind of, you have to live it and realize that sort of the information, and it's, again, it's a little bit overwhelming to consumers of what happens, you know, to animals and children who are in environments where PFAS and these other chemicals exist. And so just that understanding and learning that we're trying to share more and more with our customers so that it will trickle down. So we are seeing quite a bit of that, where people are coming to us specifically because they want a home that is, you know, as chemical free as possible. So it's kind of working both ways, where we're helping to educate our consumers who customers who educate their consumers, and then their consumers are specifically coming to them for that. That answered your question. Okay.
Yeah. And I think it's like being familiar. People are familiar with linen.
Exactly.
Yes, and I mean, it's been around, just like cotton, been around for
Yeah.
thousands of years. They're familiar with it. It feels comforting to them.
Exactly.
So I
Yeah.
think that plays into it as well.
True.
Millie, I have a question for you. So your pieces often incorporate handiwork, natural dyes, and fiber traditions. How important is it to preserve these methods in today's fast-paced, mass-produced world? Give us your thoughts on that.
It is so important. I mean, it's the reason I'm in this industry. It's the reason I have chosen to work with, you know, handmade things. Heritage and maintaining traditional craft is so vital, because, you know, in our example, the weavers are aging out. I think you are all in the textile industry. You know, you're familiar with, if anything is handmade, and that's just a craft that's not getting passed on as much, or the children are not wanting to do it. I think it's sort of a responsibility that if you're really passionate and serious about that heritage component, about tradition, and that's the core, at the core of who you are, I think it's sort of a responsibility to do whatever you can to keep that going. So it's, I mean, it's so, I don't know how else to say, but to pass on those values, to pass on that craft, because it will be lost. We're just seeing every year, I've been working with Indian weavers for so long. Every year we have, you know, this weaver passed away or that weaver passed away. There's just a shortage, and we are seeing that. But the more we can get designers and our industry people excited about it, it will trickle into the public, because we are creating the products to give to them. So the more we can get excited about it and be innovative with it, the more we can transfer that into our products and then put it into the public. So we get them excited about it.
It's great. Scott, natural fibers are often associated with a sense of calm and comfort. How do you see your materials contributing to a healthier or more peaceful home environment?
Well, I think people like a soft hand.
Right, and so natural fibers allow you to have a soft tan, it allows you to have more surface interest, you get some linen fleck into anything, I think people can be more proud of something that they. You know, they've chosen this thing and it gives them calm and they sit on it and, you know, there's like the trend of go get grounded, right? So to have something in your home that is from those fibers can give you that same feel. I also think, I don't think you know, government policy will sort of affects what people buy. And so for the last 4 years, since the first round of tariffs, there's been so much chenille, right? And so now say the tariff policy changes a little bit more, people are gonna have less A-grade choice. And so you're gonna wanna have something at this price, and so you might as well have something really nice. And so I think you're actually gonna see a lot more cotton, a lot more linen, a lot more of these things that make things special, a little bit of a drier look with a soft tan feel, because that's what people will feel good about, you know, as sort of price levels will change.
So you mentioned the hand feel. I think that's something that cannot be replaced by synthetic fiber. So we see that a lot in the textile industry, you know, cotton like hand, feels like cotton. I'm like, we'll just use cotton and it's more sustainable and it, you know, everybody loves that hand feel. So it's just, you know, and same thing with linen. I'm sure you've seen it with like rayon blends and things like that.
My colleague and I were at dinner since we've been here, and there was some drapery, and it looked like linen, and we were like, oh, because we're always, you know, put that believe ago, and touched it, and immediately, like, just the sensory kind of rejection was like, oh, no, okay, that's
Yeah.
not, it's
Yeah.
nothing.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
once it's in you, you can't get it out.
Exactly, yeah, in your blood.
Yeah.
So I'd like to talk a little about the trends and designs that are happening in cotton and linen. Are you seeing any trends right now that are increasing demand for natural fibers, whether it's, you know, texture or color, just overall aesthetic? Is there anything that you kind of seeing happening in the market?
It's been quite some time where the natural colors, the, you know, full optic white home or oyster, neutrals, grays, and so that's very much aligns itself to linen and shows the beauty of linen. There's also been quite a bit of talk of hemp. And it's something that we've actually invested in because it's a sister fiber to linen. And so we've subsidized some machinery to help process it because it's such a rugged plant. So the outcome and the hand feel is something soft and something that we would all want to touch and be near. So those are kind of the efforts that, or the trends that we're seeing. And the Belgian sense of color is stunning and soothing, and it also is very aligned with kind of the full natural fiber. So although we do have some bright colors, what's really most customers that walk into our showroom and see the fabrics on the walls immediately, I mean, we hear it over and over and over, oh, color, you know, and so there again is that emotional reaction to right now. It linen absorbs color, but also it's very soothing. So
We're definitely seeing, so our niche is, you know, the higher end interior design and the boutique hotel. Those are the ones that buy the fabrics from us. So what we're seeing in that market is, they're more attracted now to naturally thick and thin fibers. Fibers when they're spun that naturally have a thick and thinness to them and have a natural light brown, dark brown variation to them. So silk, jute, hemp, they're not consistent fibers. They tend to have an inherent slub, you know, because of the thick and thin. So that's something that helps create natural texture. So we're seeing that, and that we love playing with that. The texture is what we do more than pattern. So we're seeing that, and we're also seeing you know, just a love for old and antiques. Again, it's been happening for a few years. And I love that all that the storied textiles are coming back. And we want to take those storied textiles and we like to present them in a fresh way. So we might take like a small aspect of them and blow it up. So we're seeing the trend of those old, like antique storied textiles, and sort of bringing that in pattern and color back. So that's been fun.
So 5 years ago, maybe everything was gray. And there's nothing worse than taking like natural linen and dyeing it gray, right? It's just the wrong thing to do. So it's nice that the kind of the whole market has trended towards just a natural kind of a linen look as the key. Seeing a lot of sort of deep vegetable dye type colors. They sort of burnt orange, rust, and like a deep purple kind of eggplanty colors are good. And all of those are things that really dye well off of sort of a natural cotton linen sort of a look. The other thing we're seeing, which maybe is the exact opposite of a natural linen, but we're seeing, there was an article yesterday that the pattern sofa is coming back. And so we are, I mean, you're seeing really nice, and some of them are poly, but a lot of them are really nice cotton tapestries are coming back into the market. Seeing them on big sofas, you're seeing them on all sorts of chairs. And so I do think you're starting to see some pattern. And on the plain side, I think, like Millie just said, there's a lot of need for texture. But I do, kind of what I was saying before, I think we're gonna move away from a sort of a shiny chenille poly texture, and you're gonna start seeing slubby natural texture and chunky things coming out of cotton and linen, because again, as we kind of rotate out of China a little bit, maybe we're gonna start taking advantage of the things other people do really well. So you'll see acrylics out of Turkey, and you'll see a lot of natural fiber out of Europe or out of India.
I agree, because it's kind of like taking the inherent, just like how these fibers grow naturally and not trying to change them, just trying to like embrace what they naturally have. Because I mean, these fibers are hard to grow. I mean, they take, months of dedication from the growers, and yeah, lots of prayers, good weather, and making sure that they have enough sunlight and rain. And it's not like you press a button and the fiber just comes out like, with polyester, where it's all consistent, everything's the same, there's no variation. These are just, complete opposite of that. So I love that people are embracing the variation and the texture. So talking a little bit about consumer and even industry perception, what misconceptions do you see that consumers have or designers have about natural fibers?
That linen is not, I think in America, we grew up thinking linen wrinkles and it's not wearable. And it's actually dependent on where the flax comes from. And so the flax grown in the Flanders region, which is Belgium, France, and the Netherlands, is the highest quality flax in the world, because it's the tallest plant, which results in the longest staple fiber. And so for upholstery, that means durability. For apparel, that means less wrinkles. And so I feel like at least I and many of people that I grew up with kind of had that don't ever wear linen thing, it's too wrinkly. And so that is an important message to understand. It's washable, it is durable, and we have examples of people in our close-knit group who have multiple kids who have grown, from birth to, 4 kids, 2 to 8, who have lived in a household of optic white linen, and it's beautiful and clean. And the markers, there's a very recent story who the baby took a marker on brand new little linen poof and colored it, came home, and it was all squiggled, and put that right in the wash, and it's as good as new. So I think that's a misperception for a lot of people.
Has any of your customers ever asked you about applying finishes to the fabrics?
Yes, and a lot of our customers do that. We do have the C0 chemistry repellency, which is water stain repellent, PFAS free, so everything we do is PFAS free. But for hospitality purposes, we do have customers who then will ship it somewhere externally to be finished before they goes to their makers.
Do you like
Yeah, so for us, I think the misconceptions is definitely in the durability. Like, I'm based out of Dallas, and even still now, like, there are a lot of Dallas designers who think it has to be like a performance fabric, and they're hesitant to use it on upholstery. But we've done a lot of education, and I think they're a lot more receptive to using it. And the truth is that natural fibers, now it's not going to be as strong as performance fibers. It's not going to be as durable as performance fibers. But jute and hemp and silk, these are really strong fibers. I mean, they have a natural strength to them that's really strong. So, I tell them if you are concerned about performance, let's stay treated and knit back in, and that will increase the longevity a lot more. For our hospitality projects, we do FR treat our fabric. So, and natural fibers absorb and take treatments very well. So at least the treatments that we use with our partner, they work wonderfully with our fabrics. We haven't had any issues. So,
Guess I'll just put on top of that, I mean, they can perform very well, we have cotton products that go over 100,000 double rubs and. And that's more than enough for home, certainly more than enough for contract as well. Also use C0 treatment, that's fine with that, and there's a washability aspect, you have to, I mean, with all of this, right, with the natural fibers. You do have to spend a little bit more time there, you have to make sure the yarn's twisted and you're not gonna have a pilling concern, you have to make sure that you can have the durability based on the weave and. You have to make sure that your shrinkage is controlled via pre-wash or a sanforization process, but. I think anybody in this industry who is putting these things out there is thinking about these things, for our customers, and. There's really no need to worry that because it's natural fiber, it's going to perform any better or worse, it's just better.
I agree. And at Cotton Incorporated, we have developed several technologies for cotton fabric. So we have water repellent finishes, we have durability finishes that improve the durability even more. It's being used widely in the apparel industry. Also could be used in home as well. FR finishes, there's a variety of different topical applications that could be applied to enhance cotton's performance even more. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the companies that we're working with, they are seeing really good double rub numbers that, used for residential use, so very exciting. Okay, one or two more questions. So just thinking about the future and looking ahead in the next few years, what role do you see natural fibers playing in the future of home interiors over the next 5 to 10 years or so?
We see it just increasing, because as more and more people are educated, we see sort of the groundswell from the end consumer's interest and demand that this is really more and more people are being educated about their health in general, their environment. It kind of, shifted from focused on personal health to food, now to environment. And so we believe that linen was the fiber of the past, and it certainly is a future as well.
yeah, 100%. It's not a trend, it's here to stay, and it's going to grow. I firmly believe that as well, because the way we live now and our value system, it just supports natural fibers as well.
I would just say, to kind of mix the two major points that I've been making, I think you have. Both have inflation over the last few years, tariffs, all this stuff, right? Prices are going up, so the purchase is becoming more and more considered. So if you're gonna make this purchase once and you're gonna spend, some real money on something, you're gonna wanna have it be nice. And I think just having it be natural fiber is gonna give you better consideration on that anyhow. And then I also think there's probably a lot of people who have tried things that were the recycled polyester because they believed in sustainability and it was part of what they wanted. And it didn't necessarily make them any happier or make them feel any better in the home. And so I do think there'll probably be more and more people who felt that way, who are thinking natural fiber versus kind of recycled.
I think people are questioning more now the ingredients that are in our fabrics. So I see it a lot on social media, people are like, did you know what's in these fabrics and that they're using, you know, toxic chemicals and different things, and I think people are more aware of it now. And also questioning, you know, our skin is our largest organ, right? It absorbs everything that we're putting on it. And so I think people are just raising the alarm that maybe they should think about going back to basics. Maybe all synthetics are not always great for us, so I think work for the cotton industry, I'm happy about that, because finally it's starting to come back around again. But last question, if you could recommend one change the industry should make to better embrace natural fibers, what would it be?
I think I have to go back to education, and just, supporting getting the word out that the quality and value within the natural fibers is actually, and I think all our opinions, above and beyond any synthetics.
I think we can make our marketing materials and our messaging a little more fun. And I think more attention grabbing, just to like, you know, get people's attention a little more. I think there's definitely more room for like, to get the messaging to be more creative.
I'd say not to be a suck up, but Cotton Incorporated is a great organization for supporting that kind of thing. Some of the other ones, I think, create a lot of confusion. So I think the industry could band together to kind of come up with industry standards rather than third-party standards. Sometimes, you know, you end up with, there's like these different things you can be part of, and you don't really need to be part of both, but sometimes you have to be in this one, and at the end of the day, it's all about trying to grow this process of using better fibers, right? And so if all of that could come together with the industry thinking about it, rather than a bunch of people from outside who are all well-meaning, but I think it creates a lot of confusion. And you know, at the end retail store, it's a bunch of acronyms, and you know, does anybody really know what any of that means versus if we kind of banded together and came up with something ourselves.
Yeah. So if anybody would like to work with Cotton Incorporated or Live Eco, or you know, to try to tell that story, if you guys are using natural fibers in your product line or want to better tell that story to consumers, please reach out to us. We can help you. And you know, Cotton Incorporated is overseen by the United States Department of Agriculture. Everything that we put out is approved by them. It has to be scientifically backed. And so everything that we say as far as sustainability, health and wellness, everything is all pre-approved by the USDA. So just gives companies a little more reassurance of what we're saying is truthful and accurate and based in science. So that's all we had. I kind of wanted to open the floor now to see if anybody had any questions about anything that was discussed, or. Yes.
I have a question for Lily. You mentioned that you were adding FR to the fabrics, and my question is why, and what would you need for that? Because there's been a shift to get away from all of that FR, and obviously, like in the home, we wouldn't need it even for drapery. If it was a commercial, you know, installation or whatever you might do for drapery, but did a tremendous shift away from that to get away from.
So we actually don't add FR. I just meant that for our hospitality projects, we do the FR treatment for them.
Yeah.
So it's just for those
why.
projects.
Because-
Because they need for hospitality, so for restaurants and stuff, they need the fire rating.
But only for drapery.
Yes,
Because
for drapery.
cotton will pass, you know, all of the seating, upholstery tests without it. As furniture being textile manufacturer, we have been asked to eliminate all FR from upholstery fibers. And so it's been a big shift, and I would say that for hospitality, if anybody asks you to do that now for upholstery, they shouldn't be. And it's added cost and chemicals to people's environment. That you don't need. If they need it for a code for 701, yes, drapery, that's another thing.
That's what we do
And
it for.
That's the only reason.
So our
So-
fabrics mostly only get specified in hospitality for drapery.
Okay.
And so we have to do, they request it,
Sure.
and that's why we
You
do,
have
but
to
it's for
do
drapery,
it.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we hardly do anything for upholstery and hospitality environment. It's all just drapery. Yeah, in residential, we don't do anything unless they ask us for a stain or, knit backing. But,
It really is interesting how government policy plays into the end buying decisions, like in Europe and the UK, there's so much more recycled going, they have. It has to be a certain amount, you're doing all this stuff with recycled poly, but then they have a special FR that they put onto everything, it's this incredibly expensive treatment that costs more than the fabric. And so they have recycled fibers with higher prices with chemicals put on them. It's a very, it's very odd, but it's two different policies and you have to follow both. And so, same thing, there's all the testing, you have to pass it, you want to be in the building. And so sometimes you do send something for an after treatment, or you have to make something inherent, but it is a struggle of trade-offs between this kind of sustainability and that kind of sustainability sometimes that we all just sort of try to follow together. And again, why maybe if the industry can band together and come up with our own standards or act as a unit, maybe there's ways that we can affect policy that makes the most sense, for consumers and for the environment.
I would like to add something about that. At Cotton Incorporated, we have done some development work combining cotton with wool because wool has natural FR properties to it, so we don't have to add FR finish. So just wanted to throw that out there in case anybody didn't know that or might be interested in doing that. If you have an application, especially for like a napped surface where that surface is raised, if you add a little bit of wool to it, it will typically pass FR requirements. So. Any other questions? Yes.
Scott, you mentioned about using the cotton logo, just standing, highly recognized logo. How do you bring that in in your showroom? You'll tag with that, I would imagine. How do you find branded ingredients presenting in a showroom beyond cotton? And then how do you translate that to the point of purchase, like at a retail store, furniture retail store? How important would that branded ingredient be at that?
It's hard. I mean, we are always selling to somebody who's doing their own marketing and selling to somebody else. And usually, so my answer is kind of just, it's hard. The cotton logo is the only one we've ever tried. I don't think if we had a Oprah, Taylor Swift endorsement on our fabric, I don't know if it would get to the retail floor, right? Because we'll sell it to a furniture company who then would have 3 SKUs from Taylor Swift. And how do you tell that story at retail to somebody else who buys it? So that's always hard, I think, because, and so I've always felt like the only thing that we would be able to do, this could work for your stuff as well, is something that actually tells a story about what the fabric is. So the cotton logo says this has cotton in it. And so that translates all the way through and kind of easily, even if all it ends up being is a ingredient on the label later, but it's still sort of true the whole way and isn't marketing fluff. It just is cotton and we get to brag about it and use a registered mark.
I'm finding that a lot of my clients are now questioning makeup of materials that we source from paying more towards natural materials now and C0. This is the first time I've heard of this. Does this application, does it change anything about the natural fibers and materials other than protecting it, the colorway, the texture, how it feels?
So just to clarify, in case anybody else here is not familiar with that term, so there are finishes that can be applied to fabrics. So all fabrics pretty much have finishes on them, whether it's a softener or some sort of performance finish. One of those performance finishes commonly in this side of the industry is like water or stain repellency. There is a component within that chemistry called PFAS. You guys might be familiar with that. And so the industry has phased that out. Another word basically for that is C0. PFAS free would be C0 chemistry. And so to answer your question, no, we have not seen an impact as far as hand feel or changing the color of the fabric or anything like that. It's, I will say for performance for stain repellency, I'm sorry, not stain, oil repellency, the industry still has not found an acceptable replacement for the PFAS chemistry to offer the same level of oil repellent performance. But stains, common stains like mustard, I think, you know, ketchup, mustard, wine, Kool-Aid, like those are common stains that they test. It does work on those. But we haven't seen a change to like the physical aspect of the fabric.
Is there better for brands that recommends spots and then that farmers affected in it? Take the place of
So you're asking, are there other brands?
particular finish, I'm sorry, applied to apply
So in the case, and you can speak about linen, but in the case of cotton, we would connect the company, like the fabric manufacturers, with the chemical manufacturers who are producing these finishes, because they're the ones that are distributing these chemicals worldwide to the fabric mills. And so we've evaluated several of them, and, you know, to make sure that they work well on cotton, it doesn't change the properties like you were asking. I think that was what you were asking.
Yes, but to take it to another level, as an interior designer, now sourcing natural materials, and let's say on that, it doesn't have a finish on it, but I know it's going to for their children and animals. My clients before would probably ask for performance, but now we're looking at natural fibers, and now I'm thinking how else is it going to work? The scheme in their everyday life. What do I now finish it with? If it doesn't already have a finish, which I have a case, which doesn't, it's there.
I would say for the most part, I mean, if it does have a stain repellency finish. It's just that it's been finished before they offered it to you versus sending it off the shelf and going there. So like we do both. We stock some things with, some without. We have attempted with different chemical companies. It all kind of works out around the same. A lot of it's just about whoever applies it having the right recipe for time and temperature and the amount they use. But as far as the actual, like, basically they submerge it and it kind of goes quickly through, and then they use heat setting in order to get it to stay on. And so it's just about having somebody who can apply it well in order to make sure it doesn't have any kind of color inconsistency or anything like that.
Basically, I was connected with years and think the stories are going to be a big part of the industry going forward. And I also, it made me sad to hear that the passing of waivers in these communities or conversations are in effect. I know that learning new techniques often takes a long time and is often a lifetime education. With this kind of need for stories throughout the industry, do you think that the one people be able to meet those needs and not how do you think that these communities might be able to better educate young people, and are they willing to be educated? How do you think that this will go?
So the good news is that a lot of the villages or the towns right outside the village, depending on how small the village is. But there's someone who will start a weaving school. So there are a lot of these weaving school initiatives that are happening, and that's promising. So it's about tapping into different parts of the population then to find the weavers, to take them to the weaving school. It's not necessarily just the kids, perhaps it's the women who are at home. So it's just about and they are doing this. So the organizations that are creating these weaving schools, they're tapping into different parts of the population, like the women. We weave with a unit where, one of our units where it's only women who are divorced and widowed. So that's, that's their training women who are divorced and widowed. So it's just finding a different pool of people. The people are there, might not be the kids, but hopefully they can keep finding.
So there's like gaps that are being filled.
There are gaps that are being filled, exactly, yeah.
Time for a couple more questions, if anybody else has another question. Yes,
I think it's slightly late, so it's possible it doesn't got addressed, but I heard you guys talking a lot about like the sustainability of the fibers themselves. But I also know that there's a lot of energy and water that needs to go into like farming and harvesting and getting these fibers to the business. So there's a lot of energy waste on the very front end of the process. So as the people representing these fabric brands that are targeted towards sustainability and natural fibers, have you guys seen any innovations on that front end that make it more sustainable in the water to end?
I can speak to cotton if you want to speak to linen. So cotton farming today would be unrecognizable from probably what most people have in their mind. It is extremely energy and water efficient with land use. There's hardly any people on the farm anymore. It's done a lot by, robots and drones identifying where in the field might be a little more dry, where they might need to put more water or have more fertilizer in certain areas, not across the entire field. And, US farmers really are leading the charge when it comes to sustainability. Over 80% of the US cotton crop is fed by water, rainfall only. Farmers have to be extremely efficient with their water because, the fact that it's very expensive to put irrigation systems in, and they're working on extremely tight margins. So they have to be extremely efficient with the water that they do use. So there are tons of innovations out there. Actually, there's a cotton farm that we visit in Arkansas. It's all, the farmer has everything controlled in an app on his phone. So he knows exactly where in the field needs what, and it's not just done everywhere. So super efficient, and we are spreading the innovations out globally. So it's not just something that's done in the US. These are practices that are being distributed globally through open sharing network, through universities and land grant programs and different things like that. So
From the perspective with flax requires no additional water. And it's pesticide-free plant, zero waste. And so that's just inherent in the plant that creates linen. But some beautiful aspects of the plant itself is that the root is about as long as the plant that grows above ground. And so that aerates the soil. And so linen and hemp are rotation crops, both requiring only rainwater. And so what that means is the plant that is the crop that's planted after the linen or the flax is pulled from the fields has a 20% increase in yield. And so it's something that the farmers are very excited about, including in their rotation. And so that's part of the beauty of the story that is kind of unknown if you're not in that farming world, but there's so much there. But yeah.
I would like to direct everyone to our trade website. It's cottonworks.com, and that is where you can find information for the industry related to cotton. So cottonworks.com, it's free to sign up. You can see all kinds of information, our sustainability information like what we just talked about, new fabric designs that we have that are in cotton. You can take online classes if you are an importer. If you're an importer of cotton products into the US, you can take our classes. We have virtual classes and in-person classes. So we have tons of different resources. So please check out our website. And would you like to just plug your websites real quick before we?
Levico.com. And so you will see some of the growing of the flaxon fields and some of the history behind the heritage brand, the 167 years of experience that we have. So it's a beautiful story.
On Instagram, just do @Kufri, Kufri, and we should pull up. And our website is kufrilife.com.
We're regalfabrics.com, but while you're here, come check out the Kindred showroom. It's on floor 2. That's where the sustainable product is.
I think we have one other question. Yeah.
With all of the new technology in farming, has cotton, production really increased over the last 10 years or so?
It has, but I think the more important thing is the efficiency, like land efficiency. So we're growing more cotton on less land. And that has, yeah. So because we're getting more bolls, cotton bolls per plant. And so they're able to, new farming techniques and breeding techniques, they're able to get more cotton. So we're using less land and getting more cotton. So I think that's really exciting. All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming.